Sue here from the Unicorn Advisory. I'm going to be looking at pages and how you edit the different website pages. I'm going to show you a couple of really cool tricks to help give your pages a little bit of extra pizzazz. So I'm going to be looking at pages that are in your website area and individual landing pages that you can use for things like sales pages. If you have an opt-in, if you want to do a webinar registration, all the different pages that you can use in Kajabi. There are lots of them. So let's jump into the training where we're going to look at website pages and landing pages and how you can make them your own in Kajabi. So in Kajabi, we have two different areas. The first area is our website design. So these are different themes that you can have for your website pages. Now, your website pages are what I would call standard pages. Kajabi decides a homepage is a homepage, an about page is an about page. You can change a little bit of the content on them, but you can't change a homepage, for example, and call it about us. Like home is home, about is about. When you do individual landing pages, you can have complete control, and those are all individualized. Now, the website pages, the new Encore version, this Encore here, if you see in the design, those are the most flexible, and the Encore pages, you can do some really great design with those. Now, one of the advantages, if you are new to building your own website, of using these website pages, is that when you set the colors and the fonts, when you set the header and the footer, that is going to be the same on every single website page. So you only need to make that change once. However, sometimes you want a bit more flexibility over the design. And in that case, using individual landing pages, which is under pages here, might be something that is more advantageous for you. Now, when you are first choosing your website design in Kajabi, you've got a couple of options. Sometimes this is going to come up completely blank when you first start, and it's going to say, please add a theme. So we're going to go to our theme store and have a look at the themes available. So this is, so often I will use this streamlined. It's kind of like Kajabi basic, I guess, and strip it all out and then rebuild it. But if you kind of like the look and the structure of some of these different themes, you could pick a theme that was built in a different way that had different layout, like for example, this Rise theme. The images go all the way across. There's no border around them. It's kind of a different look to some of the others. You can change any colors, fonts, images, all of that kind of thing, but you might like the structure of this page, which is quite different, for example, to this Carl, where it doesn't have that traditional kind of hero across the top. It's actually got a quote across the top and then some different styled images. So it's a bit of a different way of laying it out. So you don't need to worry so much about the colors and what images that are in there. It's more looking at, do you like the layout and the kind of overall style of it, because we are going to customize it and I'm going to show you how. So we're going to stick with Hopper, the one that I've already got in there, but I will, also if you have these Kajabi legacy themes, don't use those. They are on the Premiere, the Kajabi Premiere, which is the older page editor, and you might find it a little bit frustrating because you're not going to be able to edit in the same way that you can with Encore. So there's a whole lot more flexibility with these Encore. So these ones that we're looking at here. So I'm going to go back to Hopper because we've already got that one in there. Whichever one you want, you can just click on it and say install. Now, the thing that's really cool is that you could actually work on a different one in the background. So these are a few themes that I have played around with in the past, and you can go and customize them and make it how you want before you put it live. So if you just want to, get something up quickly and then change and play around with a different design, you can absolutely do that as well. So we're going to go into customize. Now, one thing to know in this website area, I must say I'm not a fan of how this is displayed. Basically, you go through the different pages and each of the pages slowly will come up and you'll be like, okay, that's a library page. And then you wait and wait and wait, and then it's going to tell you that this is a member directory page, etc. So a faster way to choose which page to edit is to come into pages, and then you're just going to see a list of the pages. Now, all of these website pages, where you see it saying system, that means that that is a system set page. You can't change the URL of the page. Kajabi has set the URL. So those ones are the ones with the least flexibility. But things like your library and login, those are the main things that you do need to set up in Kajabi when you've got any courses or programs. Because once you start selling, people are going to be directed through to this library and login page. So even if you use individual landing pages to set up your site, which is my personal preference, you would still need to set up this library and login to have the same look and feel. If you see that it is published like this, that means it does have a degree of flexibility. You can edit the details, but not as much as you can do with an individual standalone page. But it has the benefit of all of the changes that you make in the header, the footer, the color settings, etc., going through to the whole template. So what we're going to do is we're going to find a home page to start with, because that's often the page that most people want to update and change. And I'm going to show you how we can make some simple changes from what's on here and how to edit on the page. Now the page is just going to load up. So in Kajabi, unlike a lot of other website builders, you actually edit in this side editing section, not on the actual page. But as you might notice, as I'm hovering around different areas, there's a little blue, it's probably easier here. There's a blue box that is appearing around the different parts of this page. And that is how you can actually go exactly. So if you want to change this text, for example, you can click on it and it's going to open up exactly where that text is, which is really, really helpful. But we're going to start at the top. In our header section here, the header is set at the moment with no menu. All of the menus are hidden. Now you can add or take away as many menus as you want. This menu, if you have it where it is showing up anywhere and you're like, what is that weird? Oh, no, it's not going to show up. It's not going to show up as my gray face. Sometimes it'll show up as like a gray person. Because I'm logged in, it's showing up a logo. But you might be like, what is that? How do I get rid of that? You can just hide it. I don't tend to use that unless you are on a library page and you are logged in, because it's going to take someone to their account, and unless they're logged in, then they can't access it anyway. So I don't tend to use that, but you can go through. I'm going to do another training on menus and navigation and how to set that up. Otherwise, this one will go for hours. But yeah, this is how you can add your navigation and your menus and do drop-down menus, etc. So I will go through that. I'm going to focus more on the actual page design. Now, if you did not want your header to show, you can actually go and hide the header and have no header, which is perfect if you're doing a sales page, a landing page, any page where the page has one job and you don't want people to get distracted by linking out to everywhere else. But just remember as well to hide it in mobile. A lot of times in mobile, it's going to display a hamburger icon, which is the 3 little bars for your menu. But yeah, and if you want to see what it looks like in mobile, you can come down here and click onto mobile. That's going to show you the page in mobile design. So in this section here, we've got these, this words in here. So you can put your headline in. You might want a button, for example, that's, oh, actually, no, do you know what? Before we start doing that, we're going to go back to something else, even more important. So my apologies. We're going to come into settings. We're going to set our colors and fonts. So firstly, you can set your favicon. If you have not already set your favicon in your settings, you can add this in here, and you can do the same with any page or products. If you put it into the settings, it'll go for any new pages or new products you can create. So I would recommend doing it into settings. In our style guide, this is where we choose our primary color. This is where we choose our button color. And it's also where we choose different fonts, and also the heading fonts, body fonts, secondary body font placeholder. So you can go through and update all of those. You can also update all of your actual heading sizes. So sometimes I find that the heading sizes, depending on your font, might be a little small, or sometimes you might have it set big and you'll change it, be like, whoa, that font is really big. So it depends on the font that you use. So I recommend to change the font first, and then you can see what it's like with these sizes if you do want to increase it. And you can do the same with mobile, but in order to see what it looks like on mobile, you have to go into this mobile view. So that is our settings. So I'm going to leave these as the default settings with this Roboto. But if it was for us, for example, our font is Montserrat. So I would come in here and choose the Montserrat font. And if that was not available, then I would pick the closest font. Kajabi doesn't have a trillion built-in fonts. There is a way to add Google fonts, which I will show you how to do that. Not today, because again, that's another kind of a little bit of a longer tutorial. So you can add Google fonts. That is an option. But yeah, you've got the choices that are in here. So generally what I tend to mostly do is use, if the actual font isn't there, find what is the closest alternative, because the Google font, while it's really helpful, it's a little bit of a workaround, and it can be a bit of a pain to have to put out because you have to do it on every text section. Okay, so this image here is actually not blue, even though it looks blue. So this is an image that has been added into the background, and there is an actual transparent overlay over the top. So they've set this color to be the same as the primary color. So this would be the brand color, and it's actually been set with an overlay. So often you'll come into Kajabi and you'll find it is set with a gray overlay. So you'll find, oops, maybe not quite that much. There's kind of a gray overlay. You might be like, why is this image so dark? And it's because there's a color overlay being used, which actually helps your words stand out a lot better. But having it with the brand color over the top just gives a really nice effect. And it means that it is really cohesive across all of the pages. And if you have the similar kind of effect on your images, then it's going to look really good on your site. You don't need to keep it. You could just upload a background, and I'm going to show you a couple of other ways that you can make cool backgrounds as well. But this is a really simple way to just grab some images, grab a stock image. I'm going to show you how you can get stock images to the right size, 12880 by 2880 by 1200, and you can just sort of pick some generic-ish kind of stock images, and then use this overlay to make sure that your words stand out, and it gives a bit of texture to the background and makes it a bit more interesting rather than just using a plain text color. Now, generally speaking, I would use a button that stood out a little bit more than that. I would probably actually do this the opposite way. I would get this color. I'm just going to get the hex number. I would probably have this button set so that the button text was the blue color. If this was just a 2-color, just to make it stand out more, or potentially even use a different color again. Now you might be able to see that this has got a little animated underneath, which is pretty cool. So you can actually click on this button, and it's going to take you to where the actual settings for that is. And you can see in each section we've got this animations. So one of the reasons why playing around with Kajabi templates is pretty cool is when you see something on a page that you like, you can, like on one of the templates, even if you don't like that style and you don't want to use that template, you can load it up into your account and see how the animations have been made and how it does, the cool things on the page. And you can go into the settings and be like, oh, okay, that's how that's done. And I'll just give you, an example. Hopefully this will work. So hopefully this will show us this page. So you can see how that zoomed in. So that is set with this zoom feature. So it's going to zoom onto the page, and it's going to be a slow one. So it's going to go for 1.5 seconds. So I'll just refresh that so you can see it. Hopefully it'll work. So see, this is zooming in. So it's not like flashing on. So you're like, whoa. But it is just, it's got that movement, which is a really nice kind of feel. It's when you have movement on a page, it makes it interesting and is really dynamic. Laura, I hope to see you again. These will all be recorded and they will be in the Facebook group if you want to catch it later. Okay, so that's something that you could do in these hero sections to make it really interesting. If you wanted to move this text, say there was something in your image and you didn't want to have this centered, you've got a couple of options. So firstly, this is centered in here. So we can actually, we're going to go to desktop layout. So the text alignment in here is centered. So we can change the text alignment to left. But then what we can also do is we can play around with the other settings on the page. So if we didn't want it to be on the left, or if we wanted to have different spacing, we can do different playing with that. We can use these spacings here. We can either set this to different to like move a little bit across the page if you don't want it to be all the way over at the left. You can do the same thing and set it to right and move it over to the right hand side of the page. Generally, I do tend to stick with left, but see how I'm using negative, like -200, that's going to push it a little bit over. So that's a way that you can move things around. If you do use negative spacing though, I always recommend to check it on mobile if there isn't a special mobile section. Now you might notice that this is centered. That's because we've got different settings on desktop and on mobile. So you do need to update the changes on mobile as well to make sure that it also changes there. But you might be happier to have it centered, but you can just choose to make that however best suits you, and you can play around with the different settings on the page. So we're going to put this one, we're just going to put this one in the center, I think. Now, one of the other things, we might just put this back centered. I kind of liked that, how they had it. Now, this button here, whenever you have any text blocks in Kajabi, you have an option to include a CTA. So when you see it, often the button is not going to be there. It's just going to be turned off. So if you have any section in Kajabi where you have text, like let's look at this section doesn't have a CTA, we've just clicked on it and it's come in here, we could easily add one by just going include call to action, and it's going to pop a button underneath for us. Now, the reason this is orange is that I believe I might have set the button color to orange in the settings when I was showing someone how to change colors, because I don't know if that orange goes. That's our orange. But you can make those settings in that settings where we're in before, which is how you can not have to change the colors every time. And then if we don't want to include that, we can just take it off. So we're going to come back up here and turn the call to action back on. And then with that call to action and the button, you can change it to be any text that you want. You can choose the button action to do a few different things. So you can go to a landing page. So this will take someone to another page. You can go to a checkout page if you have an offer created. So that's how you can be like, hey, buy this course, or, buy this coaching program, like whatever it is that you're selling via your offers. Anywhere that there is a button or an image, you can have this, the action of that. So go to download a file is another option. So you probably wouldn't use this on a page, but there might be lots of situations. If it's a thank you page or a delivery page, if you do have a PDF guide or something like that you want to give someone, you can make a button and say, hey, download the free file. You can go to a URL. Now, a URL can be anywhere. So this could be off your page. It could be on another site. If it was linking to another site, maybe you have a WordPress site for a blog, you could be like, go to the blog, and you would just put the actual URL for that. If it was go to join the Facebook group, for example, then you would get the URL for the Facebook group and you would put that in here. So lots of options that you can do for that. You can open a two-step opt-in pop-up. Now what will happen if someone clicks on tell me more, or it might be more likely you'd use it for sign up now, it's actually going to open up a pop-up onto the page. And I'm going to show you that after we've gone through a little bit more on the page. And that's where you can then put a form on it so that people can then put their email address in to get a free guide or join a free class or something like that. So you've got a couple of options. You can either send them to another page with the form on it, or you can do this two-step opt-in. You can also go to a section on this page, which is really cool. And I use this a lot on sales pages where you want people to be able to jump forward to the end so they don't be like, oh my gosh, this page is too long. So you can actually choose the section on the page. So you can name all the different sections so you know exactly what it is. But say we want to send people to this text section. If someone clicks on that, it's going to scroll right down the page to exactly where they want to go. So that's a really cool feature as well. Now we've got with our blocks on our pages, so that's some things that you can do in the header area. I'm just going to show you another option that you have. So this is a page that we've got on our site. Now it's got a little bit of texture. I'm not sure if you can sort of make that out in the background, but what that actually is, where are we? If you can see this image here, it's actually not orange at all. This is where I've used an overlay and made it almost completely overlaid. So I found this little graphic in Canva and I just went looking before. So in Canva, I've set up a design for 2880 by 1200, which is a really good size to use for a background in Kajabi. If it's a really big area, you might want to make that a little bit higher, but for most sections, that works really well. And then I've just gone and picked some random images. So these are some examples of, I've just searched for the word background, and it brings up some kind of interesting textures, so you can play around with geometric shapes. So on here, see this background here is using something that's probably similar to this kind of a geometric shape. This would make a really cool effect because you're going to be able to overlay and just sort of see these lights coming through. This could be another interesting texture, but there's so many options. You can play around with that and add get a few different textures, download these files and put them into your page and play around with it. But in this page here, so what's happened is this has got our orange background color. And then when you look at the transparency, it's nearly completely transparent. So if it was right down the bottom here, we would see all these colors and it would probably be really busy and not look that good. But it just gives a bit more interest to the page than having plain orange. And it just gives that little bit of texture in the background. So that's another thing that you can do instead of using an actual photo is come into Canva and, pick one of these kind of background textured images, something where there's not anything too distracting in the image. Something like that could look pretty cool. And then you're putting that color overlay over the top. Now you could put the color overlay over the top by adding a color box over the top, but it's really easy to do it in Kajabi just by changing that. So usually what I'll do is I'll get a few different photos and say we want to add a new one. What you do is you just go and find, let's say we want to play with this. You can just drag it over and it'll just fill the frame. Then you export that file and bring it into Kajabi. One thing, if you are going to do that, I would just suggest when you are exporting it is that you compress the file because it will be a really big file. You don't want to put images in the background that are too big, especially considering they don't need to be super high quality because you're putting the color over the top. Okay, so that's some options for your backgrounds. But in terms of your sections, you've got all these different sections that you can add into Kajabi. So, so this section here is called your hero section. So you'll see a lot of pages have this kind of section at the top with like an image or, a texture or something like this. Here is sort of, that big sort of promise at the top of the page. So with that is usually called the hero section. And if you want to add another section, Kajabi, you've got all these different options of sections. So these are pre-made, so you can actually click on any of them. So if you wanted to do hero with a form, for example, you can click on it and it's going to show you down the bottom what that would look like. Hero with audio, you might be like, oh, that sounds cool. And this is Kajabi's audio feature where you can actually have a file on the page. So they're set out differently. It's kind of like pre-built little mini sections on the page. You might want to use feature cards. So none of these are actually going to go on there until you click add, but you can get a bit of a preview of them, which is pretty cool. You might want to add a text and image section. So it's going to show you what that would look like. Perhaps a text and audio if you are doing something very cool. So yeah, so you can go through and have a play around. There's FAQ sections, pricing, different pricing option sections. So that's how you get those. Sorry, that one's the single pricing. So if you wanted to have your pricing option, it's going to give you those 3 blocks. So yeah, so I recommend, just get a page and play around with it and, have a look at all the different things that you can do. If you've got something specific that you are trying to achieve on a page, if you're like, oh, how can I make it look like this? Then that's a perfect question for me. Just let me know and be like, I'm trying to make this look like this. How do I do it? Now, a cool section that has been used on this page is these section dividers. And with the section divider, it's just a a very simple line, which is very, very cool, and it's just putting that little background color of just that little block of color in between, which is a nice way to split the page up and go in between sections. It's subtle, but you can use that in a few different ways. So this section here, this is a text and a feature. So we've got this text box here, and then we've got these three featured blocks here. So in the feature, there is an image at the top, and then we've got text underneath. Now you could, again, as I mentioned before, just like with the button, you can actually set an action onto your image. So someone could click on that and go through. You could also add your call to action in here if you did want to. You could hide the image if you didn't want to have an image there, or you can just get a new image and upload that into this image section. And if you did want to get an image, there's lots of icons. Again, if you look on Canva, I would probably suggest you make a square design. So just make a custom design and make like say 500 by 500 and look up icon, and you can bring in some simple icons like that. Change the color to be matching your brand colors, and it's a nice way to bring some simple interest to the page. So like I said before, anywhere where we've got these blue blocks, it's going to allow us to go in and customize. If you are super clever, you can come into the source code and actually edit via HTML, which is helpful, but generally you don't have to. I am code averse. I do not like code, even though I love tech and I love Kajabi. Code makes me squirm. But if you are into code and you do like doing fancy stuff, it's nice to know that they have the option. So you can set different, bold, italic, under, etc. You can pick colors. Now these are from your custom color palette that you set in settings, or you can add your own hex code. I do recommend doing that color palette in settings. It makes it so much easier. And then you've got different options for your headings. This is another way that you can add the bold. You can change this back to paragraph if it was a heading, and do quotes, etc. And you can also align the actual text. Different to if you have it in desktop, for example, and you have it right aligned, you could actually override that with one part of that in the text box. Okay, so these ones here, this section here is actually, instead of having an image behind it, there's actually a color. So there's just a case of changing the background color. So this is just a nice subtle color in the background. And then the next section is actually changed to be the same. So it kind of looks like it's the same section, but it's actually three different sections, but they're all got the same color background. So that's a nice way, again, to add some little interest to the page. These images here are actually transparent background images. So when you're using a colored background, it's really nice to use a transparent, a PNG. If you are in Canva, and this is with Canva Pro, exporting with a transparent background is going to enable you to do that, which can be really nice if you're using icons and things like that. It's going to export it as a PNG file. Okay, so these buttons as well, I was going to say this before, the buttons in this particular template are set to be round, and they are done like that. You can actually change the sizing of the buttons. So I'm just changing that to be big, but we've got our radius. I'm not sure, this is looking a little bit different. I might change that to 0. So now that I've changed that to 0, usually there's a bit of a slider, but it goes from 0 to 50. And if you make it 50, it's going to give you a complete nice little round button. And if you go 0, it's going to give you a square edge. If you go, say, 10, it's just going to give you slightly rounded corners. So you can choose how you want to set up your buttons. They don't have to stay round. It's just been done like that for this particular template. So each template's done differently, just depending on the styling of the template. Okay, so this is going through here. These, again, this is just the same sort of layout as we had up the top. So here, but they've actually used some different images, which makes it look a little bit different. So just some little circle images have been added in. Now, if you do want to get images like this, circles, that's where you can do, you can use Canva and you can create a circle frame, put your image in it, and then export it with a transparent background to get this, this kind of look. Now, again, this has got some animation on it, so I'll see if we can see it as we go down the page. So see how these sort of zoomed in, and this is sliding in from the side, and this one's sliding in, and that one's sliding in. If you're like, oh, how did they do that? That looks really cool. And this one went 1, 2, 3. You can then come into the actual animation for each part and just check how that was done. So that one's a fade up with an animation delay of 1 second. This one will probably be the same, I would imagine, maybe. Oh no, this one's got a delay of 0.5 second, so this one will go after the first one. So, and then this one's probably a 1 second delay, I would imagine. Yep, so that one's a 1 second delay. So it means that they're going to go one after each other, which is pretty cool. And again, you know, you've got this section here, which is done the same as the top, which is keeping that brand color consistency, but it's just an image in the background, and then the color overlay over the top of it. And if you see anywhere where it's like click here to select a form, if you're using a Kajabi template or even a template from someone like us, we have a pretty awesome template store, then you just click onto that click here, and you'll go into your forms list, and you can then choose your form. If you don't yet have a form, you can go edit your form and then create it and then load it up to the page. Now, one thing to remember, this is a track for new players. With your footer, when you click into the footer, often people will forget to update their social icon address. So your social icons, they will come up as Kajabi. If you get one of our templates, they might come up as the Unicorn Advisory, etc. Depends on how it's set up. But if you do not want it to say Kajabi, then please take it off and put your own Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. And with the icons here, if you don't want, say, Twitter, just take it off. And it will delete the icon. And if you have YouTube, then put your YouTube. It's not going to check it, so it's just going to, as soon as you put something in there, it's going to then add that icon down the bottom. So obviously make sure that you do the right thing, and then you're like, oh, no YouTube, you can just get rid of that. Now this has got a little logo down the bottom. So in our footer, we have got a logo, we've got a link list, we've got the copyright. That's another thing as well. It's not copyright Kajabi, it's the copyright your business. So put your business name in there. So you're claiming your own copyright. And then if you don't yet have other pages made, you can just take this off for now. The easiest way to do it is just hide it. And then you can update that menu, and when it's ready, then you can have it how you want. Now this copyright, you might notice it's gone into the middle. We might want to move it around and put it over on the side, for example. Or we might want to move it over onto this side. So, you know, you've got some different options. You've also got your layout options. You can have it as vertical, so it will go into the middle. Or you could even hide the footer altogether. You don't have to have the footer on there if you don't want to. Now, this powered by Kajabi, that is coming up here. That will stay on if you have the basic plan. But if you have growth or pro, you can go into your settings and turn that one off. So that is a few basics for your page and editing your page. If you purchase a template, so you might get something that sort of goes a little bit above and beyond these, and you might get a template from, say, the Unicorn Advisory is we have some templates. I'll spruik ourselves. We've got a gorgeous template shop with, I think there's 10 different template design options. So that just takes things above and beyond the standard templates that you get with Kajabi, and can give you some really nice ways of displaying your content. So I'm just going to, this one here, where are we? So when you have your pages, I'm going to go and show you those ones. So anything that you are editing in here, I just actually hang on, I'm gonna get back on track with your pages in here. So you have sections on your page. So this is your overall section, and then within the section, you have blocks. So you can add content and add individual things into any section that you want. So if you wanted to add something else in here, let's say you want to add a countdown timer, for example. I'll just pick a random event. It's probably not going to work because it's past. Okay. So, you know, you can then add extra blocks, and you can change the the styling and the spacing, you might be like, oh, that's a little bit much. I think I want to add a bit of extra spacing around that and drop it down a little bit and, get some more space in between. You can do lots and lots of different things like that, your animations, etc. So you can add blocks to different sections as well. So even if it's a text and image section, you can still add additional content to that, and you can hide it at any time by just going hide. And if you want to duplicate because you've made a section or you've made a block that you really like and you want to use it again, then you can duplicate. Now, the one thing you can't do is duplicate this text into another section. It's only within the same section. However, you can duplicate an entire section. And the other thing as well is to move it around. It's just really simple. If you want to put this on the other side, you can just drag and drop to move it. And then if you want to change the positioning of it, this is currently set to be 4 columns wide. So each section is up to 12 columns. So the two different sections here, we've got 4 and 4 and 5. So if we wanted to make this, say, 7, that's still going to work. It's just going to space it out a little bit more. But if we made it, say, 9, then this is going to go down underneath because this one and this one are more than 12. We can also play around with this. Say, for example, you wanted these to be on 2 separate lines, but they don't add up to 12. You can come down into our desktop layout and place this block on its own row. So that's going to force the next part down. It's going to keep that bit just for itself. So that's another little trick for you. Okay, so with templates, I'll just do a quick little, so I haven't saved any of those changes, but you would obviously save the changes. So I'm just going to show you in a landing page. So website pages are separate to landing pages. These are all the preset pages. These are the ones you create as individual pages. So if you purchased a template from the Unicorn Advisory, and there is a template sale on until the end of the week. So if you want to check it out, you can go to theunicornadvisory.com/Kajabi-template-shop, or just go to theunicornadvisory.com and click on the templates. This is an example of a template that we have created. So in this template, there's some really different backgrounds, which are not going to be the standard kind of backgrounds that you get in Kajabi. Like we've got this section here where we've got this, these leaves on the side, and there's, half of it is white and half of it is this beautiful green color. And it's then got another one underneath going into this kind of wavy section. And you might be like, all right, well, how am I going to get that? Well, you can purchase a template, which is always a good option. You'll also get things like these frames, which are set with a nice shadow around them. So just to make it a bit more interesting, and some different backgrounds, etc. But how these are created, this is 2 different sections. So this section here is one section, and then this section here is another section. But because they've got the same color in the background, they kind of blend into each other, which is pretty cool. So these are done through using backgrounds that are made in Canva. So we've actually gone and made all of these for you, so you don't need to worry about what size is going to fit and how to make it look good on the page. Our designers have already gone and done that. So when you get a template pack from us, it will come with all of these, and then all you need to do is go and change them to your color. So let's say that you have, different colors that you use. I don't know if you would use these colors. Let's just pick some different colors. So let's say that these were your colors. That's pretty full on. Then what you can do is export this here from the template, and then you upload that back into Kajabi. So you would actually come into this section here, and instead of this one, you would select the image and add the new image with the new colors. But you don't need to change anything or move it around. It's going to look exactly the same. You can just update the colors. So you aren't actually able to update the colors in Kajabi. You do need to go and do it in Canva and then put the image in. But it's really helpful because you don't need to worry about, getting everything in the right place and making it look good and, faffing around with different sizes, etc. And then the same thing for this section underneath here. This section is another one of the backgrounds that we would provide. where is that section? So we've got a couple of options. One is the background where it is the white is on top and the color at the bottom. And then we've got this one here where it's just got a little bit of white at the bottom with the color on top. So again, you can just go and update that color to your own color. There is a way in, like say we were updating it to purple, for example, you can change all. So you can do all of the changes at once. We're just going to make that change again. So you can change all of the colors at one time on all of the templates, which is really, really helpful. So then you can just go and download that one. So this one, when we go into Kajabi, you'll see it. This is actually, this color goes right to the top, and this one, the background goes right to the bottom. So when they're up against each other, it gives a really cool look in the background. So, you know, that's certainly something that you can play around with on your own side if you want to get something that's a little bit different. And then the next section underneath is white. So then it just makes a nice flow to the page. And then these sections here are actually backgrounds that we have created as part of the templates. And it just gives you an idea. These are created in Canva, so you can't update the colors in Kajabi. Again, it's a background image that is put in here, but it just gives a really nice designer kind of feel to the pages. So yeah, that's some options that you can use for your pages. So I hope this was helpful. If you have just joined me, I would encourage you to go back and have a look at this, where I've gone through some different things that you can do to make your page look fancy. And like I said, if you've got any questions, if you've got something that you would be like, how can I make my page look this? How can I get this kind of effect or style? Let me know. Like Kajabi is not as, you're not able to edit in the same way that you could on WordPress, where everything is down to the pixel and you can move anything to any position on the page. But for the simplicity of editing, once you get used to using Kajabi pages, they are just glorious. It's very easy to use them, and it's very easy to edit, because everywhere you want to edit, you can just click on that. And Kajabi have got some cool templates. And then if you want something fancier, there's other options. We have our Kajabi template shop, and there's a few other designers as well that have Kajabi templates for sale, where you can come in and make those changes, or you can get creative and play around yourself and see what you can come up with to get some really beautiful looking pages. I will do another training the next time I do one of these on menus, so that you can get to learn how to do these different navigation styles on your menus, and how you can do drop down menus, how you can set up different menus for different pages, and even inside your actual membership if you want to, or your course if you want to direct people to specific lessons, like start here, etc. So I hope this was helpful. If you do have any Kajabi questions, let me know. This is my favorite thing in the entire world to talk about. I am your resident Kajabi nerd. And I will be doing these live streams through to the end of July every day. So celebrating all the awesomeness that is Kajabi. And if you did miss out on the $99 offer for 3 months, fear not. Kajabi announced just a few hours ago that they are extending it out until the end of July. So woohoo, you got a few more days if you want to get in on that. Now, our template sale is also on until the 31st of July. So we have a whole lot of templates, but if you're like, oh, I don't want to choose, they're all too good, you can get the Infinity Lifetime License, which gives you every template we've ever created, every template that we're going to create in the future, all the templates. That is closing for good on Saturday on the 31st, so you won't be able to get that again. So if that's something where you're like, oh, I never want to have to choose, or I might want to change in future, could be a really great option for you if you're like, templates would be a good plan. All right, that is me for the evening. Signing off. I'll be back again tomorrow. If you've got anything in particular that you would like me to show you in Kajabi, please do let me know. I'm always happy to help. I have a whole lot of ideas, and there's a whole lot of things that I can show you, but I want to make these really, really helpful. So if you've got something specific, just let me know in the comments, and say hi if you have watched this on the replay. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Sue from the Unicorn Advisory, signing off. Bye for now.